Even though this is a word processing course though, it's not a typing course, so we don't want to take up too much time typing. That means we have the opportunity to do two other things that allow us to add content to our document very easily. The first is using simple copy and paste. We have a document that our office manager wrote that has the intro to our executive summary, and we're just going to copy that from their document and paste it into ours. The cursor location is important. Now it should already be where we want it, and that is just below where we type the heading for executive summary. At this point though, we are going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see things a little bit better. We'll move to the bottom right of the screen. Just going to go ahead and click a few times. And I'm thinking that if we get somewhere right around 120% or so, that should allow us to see the width of the document, but also let us see the content as well. So as we can see, our cursor is blinking below executive summary. Now we simply need to open the other document, copy and paste the content. To do that, we'll go up to the File tab and give it a click. We'll go to Open, navigate to the desktop or wherever you put your project files, and make sure you're in the Chapter 3 folder. And we're going to double click the file called business plan _ intro summary. This is just a Word document, but I do want you to notice that it is red and it also uses the Times New Roman font. This is important for what we're going to do. Now the quickest way to copy this, since we want the entire thing, is to go ahead and just press a keyboard shortcut, which is Control A, the keyboard shortcut for Select All. You could use any other method that you want, including click and drag or any of those other things that we've learned. Now, the shortcut for copying something is Control C, so I'll press that on the keyboard. Once it's copied, we can go ahead and close this file from the upper right corner, which brings us back to our document. We again make sure that the cursor is in the place that we want, and we could do Control V as in Victor or any other paste that we wanted to. But Office 2010 gives us some nice paste tools I wanted to show you. So instead, we're going to go ahead and right-click. When we right-click, at the top of the shortcut menu, we see all of the different options that we have for pasting, including the ability to preview it before we actually do it. So we can use the destination theme. We can keep the source formatting. We can merge the formatting between the two documents. Or we can use the one that looks like a big letter A, and that is text only. Since we want to make sure that this matches our text and our formatting, we're going to choose the last one and say we don't want to keep that Times New Roman red or anything else that was applied to that, so just keep the text. We'll go ahead and give that a click. We can see how it's already going to look on the document, and there it is. It matches our style, which is Calibri for the font and 11-point text. Remember that by doing it this way, we make sure that our text is clean. It doesn't contain any other stuff, it doesn't compete with our document, and it doesn't have any of those either obvious or hidden formatting features that sometimes cause a little bit of an issue when we're trying to work with text later on. This is the way to get truly clean text into your document. I'm going to go ahead and tell you one more secret that's really nice for people like me who need to create files or templates or documents where we know we're going to be placing text, but we may not know exactly what that text is yet. We can do that stuff that you've probably seen before in templates. It looks like Latin text. It says lorem ipsum. We can do that by using the lorem keyword. This is kind of fun. Now we have to do just a little bit of code, although really it's just typing. We're going to type equals, then the word lorem, L-O-R-E-M, and then we could do an opening and closing parenthesis, but I'm going to do opening parenthesis 1, 3. And then a closing parenthesis. Watch what happens when I press enter. If we would have just put equals, lorem, opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, the default would have given us 3 paragraphs, and each paragraph would have had 3 sentences in it. Since we put in 1, 3, we actually designated that we wanted something a little bit different. In this case, we said only add 1 paragraph with 3 sentences in it, so you can actually designate how much text you want. I wanted to show that to you because a lot of people need to do placeholder text, and they're not quite sure how to do it. This is the easiest way. It also doesn't get confused with regular document text, which can happen if we kind of make up stuff or copy and paste things from other documents. The other option that we have is to actually insert an entire file without having to open it and do the copy and paste. We can do that by using the Insert Object option. So we're going to move up to our ribbon again, and this time we're going to click on the Insert tab. Then we're going to head all the way over to the right where it says Object as part of the text group. and we can choose Text from File. This looks like we have the same two documents that we've been working with, but I wanted to point out at the bottom that by default it's just looking for Word documents, but we can change the types of files that it's looking for or allowing us to see. We'll go ahead and give that little drop down a click, and in this case we'll go ahead and say show us all of the files, and this time we can actually see a plain text document called Text File to Import. Let's go ahead and give that a double click. Since it is a plain text document, it wants to make sure that it knows what kind of encoding it has. We will accept the defaults and say OK. And now if we look carefully at our document, we'll see on the very bottom left of the status bar that we actually have 13 pages of content. Of course, we can go ahead and scroll up through all of that. That would take a little bit of time though, so I'm going to press Control Home. That's the top of our title page. Then we'll press Page Down a couple of times. We'll press it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and about 5 or 6. There we go. And now we can see that it inserted all the rest of this content, starting with the business concept. Because it was a plain text file, it does not match our formatting. We'll go ahead and fix that in our next lesson. If you scroll through this, I know that right now it's very hard to read, but we don't want to have to type 13 pages of text, and we also don't want to cheat. We're going to go through how to format text, so importing text that's already formatted would have not allowed us to learn what we need. I know this is also a long document, or at least it seems like it's a long document, but don't worry, we're not going to go through all of it. In order to do all of the things we need to through this series, though, we need to have a significant amount of content. Now that we have that content available, we can go ahead and choose exactly which pieces we're going to work with, and there will also be some stuff left over that you can practice with as well. So for now, we should feel good that we're able to enter text into a document. We know that we can just start typing, but we also know that we can use click and type, as well as copy and paste, and even insert entire files into our document. I guess one of the keys or one of the shortcuts these days is we don't want to have to type if we don't have to. If the content already exists somewhere, it's better to reuse the content. We also learned about that little Latin placeholder, which can be good as well. This level of text entry is like framing in a house. The framing goes on a solid foundation, at least hopefully it does. We can then begin to frame in the walls, which is where we can begin to see how this house is actually going to look. What rooms will it have? Now it's not too pretty to look at yet, and it may not even be easy to see exactly what each room will be, but we begin to get an idea of the structure. When we begin adding text, like the headings and the content that we've started with, that's kind of like framing in our document. As we add more and more content, kind of like the main body text that we use by inserting the file, it's like adding some drywall and we get to see kind of how this thing is going to take shape. With it, we can better see and understand the layout and purpose of the house and its rooms. In fact, it almost becomes usable at this point. Technically, this is a word processing document that takes up 13 pages, and technically it has good content in it, but it's not real easy to see exactly where certain sections are and different topics start and stop, and that really is a critical point. But at this point, we're kind of at the same point with our document that we are with a house that has a foundation and a little bit of the framing done. We're starting to see what it's going to look like, but we're not quite there yet.